I've started the recording. As you can see, this is our design 301. It's lecture and guided practices. And so this is the first time that we'll really do something called guided practice. And what I'm going to suggest is that you go ahead and have AutoCAD open, taking up most of your screen, and just get this down into a sizable thing for the meet so that you can listen and watch, and then you could do it along with me. That's what we do when we're in class. Now, I happen to have a 36-inch monitor attached to my laptop that has a 16-inch monitor. So I've got plenty of monitor to do that with. If you don't, that's okay. But if you've got a fairly nice setup and you can run AutoCAD at the same time as being in this meet, it'll be helpful. And then you can ask questions as we go along. And I'll get some, I'm going to be looking for some volunteers next week to do some how-to videos with me to demonstrate doing that. Because it really is a benefit that if you can draw along with me and then bring up the questions that you run into, because you will not be the only one with that question. So with that, welcome to everybody's in. I got Charlie and Chris and Rebecca and Steven. I'm in here twice, so welcome in. Oh, Tyler, welcome in. Hopefully, I'll get Tyler a reply on the VMware for you today or tomorrow, because that would be really useful. So welcome in. So here we go. What we're working on today is drawing lines. Oh my gosh, we're finally into drawing something. And we'll do 2 of these and just get right into it. So I'm going to start sharing different tab. So I'm in VMware right now. I have something called the Jamboard over here. This is a Jamboard. If you're familiar with Google, you'll see it's a fairly nice little whiteboard to work on. And then over here, I've actually got AutoCAD up, and you can see that I've done the drawing. And our goal in the first part, is to recreate this in some fashion. Okay, so I'll start from the beginning and do it. But first, I want to talk about this. So there are so many ways to draw lines in AutoCAD. Got to make sure, yes, I am recording. Good. There's so many ways. And this particular plate is set up to do mostly orthogonal lines. So there's 2 or 3 ways that you could do that, and I'll demonstrate that. And so when you've got straight lines that are mostly up and down, using the ortho button or polar tracking is pretty much the easiest way to go, because you can drag your mouse in a direction and type in the distance. But then we've got these 2 funny little lines up here that we have to figure out, and those are definitely not orthogonal, and neither is this one. So there's a little bit of work to do to figure out the different ways to draw this, and which one works best? The one that's easiest for you. Now, there are times when that's not the case. There are times when a very specific drawing method is required, particularly when you're working with other disciplines. But for now, anything that we're going to do, however you get it done, is the best way. So let's take a look at this. It says right here that we're going to start at 3,2. This spot right here is 3 inches over in the X and 2 inches up in the Y from our 0, 0 point. Often that's important. Your starting point can be very important. And at another time, I'll tell you about a job I did where they moved the start point on a construction job, and it caused some serious problems. This was on the City Hall in West Sacramento, and they were trying to find one of my valves that they buried and could not find it until they figured out that they moved the 0 point, and somebody didn't get the picture. So knowing where you start your project and then where you start your object is sometimes important. So we're going to start at a specific spot, and then I happen to usually go counterclockwise. It won't really matter. You could go clockwise, but you can draw a straight line right here, and the dimension are shown right below it. These little lines right here show you that this line is 2 inches long. And I just told you we're defaulting to inches, as you know. We don't really know what this 2 refers to, but we're going to say it's 2 inches. So we're just going to go over 2 inches, and then we have to go straight up. Now, it looks straight up. We don't know it's not straight up, but that's one of the standards. If you've got lines that look orthogonal, they are, okay, unless you have an angle sign on it. So I'm going to go straight up, and I got to figure out how far up. So I'll go over some and find the dimension over here. Welcome, Anna. Come on in. So we go over 2, and then up 0.5, and then over 1.82. And then down, and it's going to be the same as this 1.5, and then over 0.8. So I'm always looking for the dimensions as I go. Now this one is easy, and this one, but now I don't see the dimension. I've got to do some arithmetic. Okay, and so I know that if I start here, this length is 1.5, take away 1. That's how I learned arithmetic, by the way. Adding, take away. I learned things called gazinta. 5 goes into 10 twice. So I had a very verbal way of learning math, and I still do it. But this is half an inch, right? 0.5 right here. Now I got the hard part. I need to go backwards -1 and down -1.34 to get to here. And I'll show you a couple of ways to do that. And then I have to go backwards -1 and up 1.34. And then so on and so forth. There's 1, 1.58, 0.5. I'm just reading the dimensions each time I go. And then I got another weird one right here. I have to go -1, that's backwards to the left, and -1.06, that's down. Now, if I'm using my mouse to drag, I don't need to worry about plus or minus. I just drag the mouse in the direction to go. So that's how I start a drawing. I always look it over. I know this is an important point, and then I know everything is kind of orthogonal. So when I'm over here, I can set my ortho button, and I'm going to use my dynamic. And because I want my lines to show up bold, I'm going to go to this line weight thing, and I'm going to right click and do my settings. And I'm going to make it kind of heavy. See, if I get it down here, it gets a little bit light. And then when I take my snip for my portfolio, it'll be hard to see. And this is really a function of how complex your drawing is, and whether you've got lots of tiny little overlapping features. But this one's really simple, so I can make it look really big and bold. Okay, so let's see if we can draw that now. So you're welcome to do this with me. I'm going to go start a new drawing. turn off my grid. You can see I've got my setup kind of all done. I'm going to have my dynamic on, and I'm going to have my object snaps on, and that's just in case I lose a spot later on. And I'm going to have my line weights on, set fairly heavy, and I'm in inches. Okay, so the first thing is I want to frame my drawing. I want to see where my drawing is going to go. And so this box over here is telling me that I want it to all fit inside of a box, and I'm going to go ahead and draw it. It's missing over here, but it says 10,7.75. So I'm going to draw a rectangle, and I'm going to start at, it's asking me, where do I want to start? I want to start at 0, 0. 0 in the X, 0 in the Y, and I'm going to go up to 10 in the X, 7.75 in the Y. And now if I double click my mouse wheel, that takes up the whole thing. So I've got it showing as big as I can in my screen, and now I'll be able to draw. So I'm going to start at this 3.2, and I'm just going to pick these numbers as I go. We kind of went over them. So I've got it kind of over here where I can refer to it. So there's the draw line command. Not sure you can see that, but I hope you can. Draw line. And it's saying, where is my first point? And remember, my first point was at 3, 2. So that's where I'm going to start. And now I'm going to put my ortho on. And now you can see it only draws up or down or sideways. What's nice about this is I don't have to get that number just right. I can just pull my mouse in a direction and type the number, and it says 2. And then I can pull my mouse in the next direction, and it says 0.5. I'll enter that. And then the next direction, 8. Isn't that a nice feature? It's really cool. So using the ortho button, I can just drag the mouse in a direction, not be too concerned that I've got the number right, and just type in the number that I want. 0.68. And then it goes up 3.16. Comes back what? Now, this is where I don't need to put in a minus number because I'm telling it the direction with the mouse. I can just type 1. So those are really nice features. And remember, this one was 0.5. The number wasn't shown. I had to figure it out. Now I get to kind of a tricky point. I'm going to turn my ortho off. And I know I have to go from where I'm at -1, -1.34. So it went backwards 1 and downwards 1.34. So that's one way to draw those angled lines. I'm going to show you another way now. I know that this next one over here is backwards 1 and up 1.34. Backward. And this is very common that you draw what are called construction lines. So I'm going to go back 1 and up 1.34 and draw my line. So that's another cool way to do it. And then I just delete. That's often done in AutoCAD. Okay, where you draw something just as a marker, and then you use your snaps to go to it, and then you get rid of it. So I just showed you 2 ways to do these angled lines. The reason I had to do that is I actually don't know what this angle is. Now, if some of you know a little bit of math, that you'll know that, you can do 1.34 over 5. This angle is the tangent whose angle is 1.34 over 0.5, rise over run. But, oh my gosh, that's a lot more work than just drawing it. Okay, so now we're back in over here, and I need to draw a line, and I need to come back 1, down 1.58. Here it is, 1.58. Back over 0.5. Nope, out 0.5. Oh, I see I almost got that one right. It comes out 0.5, down 0.5, back 1.5, down, here it is over here, 0.86, 0.86, back out 1.5. And now I've got this weird angle to do again. So I've got two choices. I can either draw it out horizontal and vertical, or I can use this thing again. So I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to say it goes backwards -1, comma, and down 1.06, -1.06. Put my ortho back on. And there are hotkeys and all sorts of stuff to make this all fast that you don't have to worry about now. Then down to the endpoint. There we go. I've got it. And it didn't take me all that much time. If I want to know how much time it took, I can actually type time, and it tells me that this took me 7 minutes and 8 seconds. 7 minutes and 8 seconds to draw that. And that's something that you can do if you feel like it. All right, so there we go. I've got it. And later on, we'll do more with this. We'll actually learn how to put dimensions on it and text on it and frame it and do line weights and all sorts of stuff. But this is great for now. We're going to come back to this drawing later on. So I'd better save it. File, save as. And it's plate number 1. But it's my second one, so I'm going to call it plate 1.2. Now, one of the things I like to do is experiment. And I would suggest to you that you might want to do this 2 or 3 times and find different ways to do it. So let's see what happens if I don't use dynamic and I use 45-degree tracking instead, and just see what happens. So I'm gonna move this one now. Get it out of the way. And so here we go. I'm gonna just use a slightly different method now. So I'm gonna start at 3,2. Make sure. There we go. And I'm going to come over to up 0.5. See, the polar tracking works also. On 0.5 over 0.68 over up. And of course, it really helps that I know what these numbers are because I've done it 20,000 times. Four over 0.5, back 1, down 0.34. One up 1.34. And here we go again. So over 1, down 1.58, over 0.5, down 0.5, back 1.5. This is very, very similar to what a civil engineer does when they're doing lot lines. Okay, I'm going to do another one. -1, -6. There we go. And those should match up. Those should be exactly the same. If I make a copy and put it right on top of the other one, it better end up being the same thing. Yep, looks pretty good to me. Okay, so that's kind of cool. So that was just another way to do it, and it was essentially the same thing, but I had a different set of settings. I was using polar tracking instead of using ortho, and I did not have my dynamic on. So those are some cool ways that you can go about getting these ones done. There's one other way that I could have done this, and that's if I had gone 2 inches over and then drawn from the midline down 1.34 and then back to that spot. And that would have saved me about 5 keystrokes. And so when you're working in industry, you want to develop the methods that reduce your keystrokes as much as you can. So I just showed you even a third way to make this weird little thing in here, right? I could have drawn a line straight across over here. Matter of fact, let me do it this way. I could have drawn a line straight across, straight down, and then I wouldn't have had to worry. I know it's the midpoint because 1 goes into 2 times, so that's the midpoint. So then I could have just drawn up and up. So those are a bunch of different ways that you can go about getting this drawing done. And my recommendation is, my suggestion is, you draw this 3 or 4 or 5 times. As you can see, once you've got it kind of down, it takes maybe 4 or 5 minutes to do. So your first one will probably take you a while. But then if you want to say, okay, I'm going to spend a half an hour to an hour on this thing, and it only took me 30 minutes. Well, let me see if I can do the next one in 15, and then the next one in 7, and then the next one in 3. Okay, so those are some things that you can do if you want. Are there any questions on how to do this drawing? Okay, not seeing or hearing any yet. So then what you'll do is you'll take a snip of it, and you can take, try to get the whole thing. You can take either just this, or you can get the whole thing. I've seen some people, when they do it, show what settings they had on. So you might even take an additional snip of what settings you used and go ahead and put them in there. You can even, let's see, did I do the snip in the right one here? It's not letting me paste. There it goes. You can even put that in there as you work with it just to show what your settings were as you worked on this one when it was polar. And even if you wanted to, you could take it like that. Try that one. It won't let me take that snip while that's active. So there you go. There's some things that you can do on how to present this for your portfolio. Okay, so our next one to do, and let me go ahead and save this. And I can open up another new one. The next one we're going to do are these stars. Let me zoom in just a little bit here. And I'm going to focus on this one first. There is a start point. You can see there's a start point. It says at 1.5, 3. And all the horizontal and vertical ones are a length of 1. And all the angled ones are a length of 1.4. So I could draw this and this using my polar tracking at 90 and this one with my polar tracking at 45. And I'll tell you, there are ways to make this very, very fast. You can see that this is essentially repeated over and over again, right? So I could actually make a spin an array of that, or I could draw this part and do a mirror image of it and a mirror image of that. But we'll learn about those next week. Right now, we're just going to draw straight over, straight down, and then use these angles with that distance. So here we go. I think I've got my angles set properly at 45 degrees. I can do that. And straight up and down is 90 degrees. So this is 40, 90, 135, 180, multiples of this 45. So here we go. Start my line. Where does it ask me to start? 1.5, 3. 1.5, 3. I'm going to pan and zoom in a little bit. And then I'll go over 1, down 1, over 1.4, down 1.4, up 1. And isn't this cool? I don't have to be exact. I just have to have that little line showing up. There it goes. And I've got it. And if I turn my line weights on, it looks pretty good. So that's how we get that one done. And so this one is really, it really is meant to be this polar tracking one. Now, I can do that another way. I'm going to turn my dynamic on. I'm going to move that out of the way for now. And let's try that again with my dynamic input. So I can draw a line from 1.5, 3. I can go over 1. Oh, I want to turn my tracking on. And now watch, I can draw 1.4 tab angle 45. And now it's remembering those. Isn't that weird? Now I can go 1.4 tab 45. 1 tab 90. 1 oops. 1 tab 0. I don't like that way as much. It's a little bit harder, but it's good to know how to use that dynamic. It's kind of nice to know what that dynamic is. Okay? So that one's not as user friendly, but it is another way to get it done. So now let's come over and look at this one. I've got a different set of angles. I've got a 30 and a 60. But this time everything is the same. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Fortunately, 30 and 60, that's a multiple. So when I set my polar tracking over here for 30, you'll see it will also get the 60. So this one, I'll start at a certain spot, and I'll just use my polar tracking with a length of 1.0. And again, I don't know why, I just always go counterclockwise. It won't matter one bit which way you go, just so long as you get it done. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to come up and draw a line, and it asks me where's my first point. 7.0, comma 2.5. And now I'm just kind of looking. Yep, that direction looks right. This one looks like it goes straight up. Then this one looks like it kind of goes, that looks about right. So I'm just visually comparing right now. I'm not even trying to calculate what angle it's at. I'm just visually comparing. And then hopefully it comes right. Oh, it does. It comes right back down. And when I snap, it's right. Now that doesn't always happen. Sometimes when you're working odd angles and things, doesn't quite line up. You'll see one in the workbook that is that way. There we go. And then this one over here, it does show this rectangle. So let me go ahead and draw the rectangle again. From 0, 0 up to 10, 7.75. So you'll get used to this. You'll get used to some things are identified by coordinates. Some things are identified by lengths and angles. And sometimes things are just identified by, go to a point, go to a midpoint, go to an end point. Okay, but that's cool. Yes, I can give you this link. Usually I just use it to play around with, but anyone with the link, you guys can even go in there and edit if you want. Oh, I'm in a different I've got it in a different spot because I'm in VMware. But to get to Jamboards, Jamboards are, if you're in your Google Drive, Jamboard is one of the things that's available to you. And if it doesn't show up on your regular one, you might have to come down here and go to the Get More. But it's a really nice little tool for just playing around and making notes. You can write things. You can erase things. You can write yourself some notes. They show up bigger and smaller. You can put images on if you want to just say, okay, I need to look at that. And you can set it up with like transparent and red. You can write text. I like it because I can just say, okay, what's going on here? And I can figure things out. It's a pretty nice little tool. And it works for me because now I can discuss things, and I like the little laser pointer. It works really, the little laser pointer is nice. Okay, let's take a look just really quickly. This line right here was this, this one, sorry, was supposed to start at 1.5 comma 3. So you can check, you can check to be sure. I'm going to click on that. And if I right click and properties, it tells me, where did I start? I started at 1.5 comma 3. And it lets me know how long it was and the angle. So I just keep showing that to you. You don't really have to get good at it in this class. In other classes, you have to really know how to use that properties box. I'm just going to keep showing it to you, and you can do some good checking. Like this one over here. Start 7 comma 2.5. So when I come over here and I right click and check those properties, it started at 7 comma 2.5. And then hopefully this other one ended at 7 comma 2.5, and it did. So that's really good news. Okay, let's see if this one ended up at 1.5 comma. Oh, everything worked out. So, right at the beginning here, we're not really too concerned with accuracy. If you've done a nice job and gotten it pretty close, we're pretty happy. There are times when it's very, very critical, and you'll have to get it right. And there are times when it's like, oh, who cares? And you don't. But these are just ways that you can work with getting it right. Okay, any other quick questions on that before I go on to whatever? Let's see, what else was I going to cover? Drawing circles, shapes, and practice work. Okay, so I'm just going to demonstrate with the practice work some of the draw circle. So let me go find my practice work. I downloaded it. Circles. Here we go. And let's say I want to draw that thing. And it doesn't give me any dimensions. I just want to draw something that kind of looks like that. And how will I draw that? Using the circle command. Oh, I better save this one. So I'll open up another one now. And I don't really, I'm just going to go, okay. I wonder how I got those even like that. You can sort of estimate it out, or you can Or you can look at some other things on it, right? Like this, I really should have this one on the Jamboard too, because I don't have a markup tool on here. But you can tell that this is 90 degrees. So that's, what is that one? 22 and a half, 64.5, and 90. So you could use the polar tracking tool to sort of get that in there and figure those out, where those go. So let's just see if I can do this. First, I'm just going to draw a circle. There, I've got a circle. That's cool. And I happen to like drawing a line. Now, I've got my O-snap set to find the center. So if I want to draw from here, and let's say I want to draw 6 inches long. I want that to be 6 inches away. Then I could put my first one right there. Now, there's really cool commands about rotate and all this other kind of stuff. But let me see. This 23, 45, 68, 90. Oh, that hits these right here. So if I pick this one, I can come over here and I can draw a circle again. And this is the hard way. It's a lot of work. Oh, actually, that isn't the right one, is it? We've got too many in there. I need that one. But it's okay to do a little bit of extra work now and figure out ways to make it quicker later on. So I can just keep doing that until I've got that all the way drawn. Here's a cool thing. If I want all of those circles, I'm going to get rid of that just for a moment. If I want to get all those circles to be just a little bit smaller, see they all have a diameter of 2, maybe I want a diameter of 1.5. Is that the coolest thing you ever saw? You can just pick all of those, and the radius and the diameter, it shows up, and I can adjust that. And they'll all change together. That's a really, really cool thing. So that's how you might use the circle command, and I used circle radius. Now this one down here is kind of cool. And I just need to be able to draw a bunch of circles. And and this represents a gear, by the way. This would be the pitch diameter of 2 gears. This would be the bore. And this would be the outside diameter of the gears. What's interesting is this has a different line type. And you don't have those line types loaded, so it might be a little bit harder for you. Now, this one's really cool. How am I going to draw that thing? Anybody got a good idea? If I was on the Jamboard, I'd notice that I've got 3 angles here. If I drew down and then did 120 degree and 120 degree, I've got tangent, 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 tangent. And then there will be some trimming to do, but that'll be okay. I'll show you that in a little bit. So I'm going to try that. I'm going to draw a circle. Oops. Then I'm going to draw a line straight down. and then a line 100, 120 to that. There we go. And so now this circle right over here is tangent to this line. It means it touches it at just one spot. And tangent to this line and tangent to this. It touches this line, and the circumference at one spot. And they've got the coolest tool here. Tangent, tangent, tangent. And do you see how this thing in the middle here is this thing in the middle? And so now I just have to take away the part I don't want. And you don't know that yet, but there's a command called trim. And then I can trim away the parts I don't want. And erase the parts I don't want. Is that the coolest thing? So you do still have to know the trim command to get rid of the parts of the circle that you don't want. Okay? But now you've just seen it. Yeah, isn't that cool? 3 inner circles. So there you go. That's how you make that one. And now you can do cool stuff with it. I'm gonna just do some fun work just because I like to. So one of the things you can do, you saw that I can do some cool stuff. Like I could press pull this. Now I got a cool 3D shape. And if I look at that cool 3D shape, I'm going to make this big for you now. In what they call conceptual mode, you see, isn't that kind of neat? This is how people are able to design cool seating arrangements and fountains. And of course, this is a little bit sharp right here. You might want to put what's called a fillet radius on it. But isn't that cool how you can do that? And you can even make the different portions different colors. So I can make that one again. I can go to my red, white, and blue thing, or so that's just kind of a fun thing that you can do. Once you've got these basic simple shapes that we've been drawing, you can do some cool stuff. Okay, I'm going to go back out of this for a moment and go back into my drafting and annotation mode. And well, I'll do that on another one. Okay. So that was circles, and then let's do one with some shapes. And shapes usually are associated with a circle. So if I do a polygon that has, I'll make it a 6-sided polygon, and I'll start it right there. And inscribed means it's inside, and circumscribed means outside. So I'll make this one inscribed. right up to there. So now I've got kind of a cool polygon shape. And that's a neat thing. Just for fun, I'm going to go back into 3D mode again for you. And I'm going to do something called revolve. I'm going to revolve that shape about that line. And I'll go 90 degrees. Isn't that cool? What you can, it's like, wow, there are so many cool things that you can do with AutoCAD. But that's using polygons, triangles, hexagons, rectangles, using circle shapes. We do a lot of our design with basic shapes because a lot of our materials come in basic shapes. Another really, really cool thing I can do with this is I can make a shell out of this. And now I've got a shelled feature of it. Isn't that, I mean, oh my gosh, when you're talking about doing, sheet metal work or any kind of fabric or light acrylic work, this kind of a tool is really, really, really useful for us. So, again, I know we're just doing some really simple shapes, but the things that you can do later on once you've kind of got these things down, kind of cool. And those practice shapes that I've given you are all useful to developing your skill and your ability to do these and then moving on to other cool stuff. Okay. Was anybody able to keep on with me and actually do that along with me? Did any of you have AutoCAD open? Okay, well that's cool. Next week, okay, so Stephen, and how did that go? Were you able to kind of keep up with it and move along? Did you have any questions on it? Okay, cool. All right. So feel free, if you've got AutoCAD open and I'm moving along, yeah, till the contractor got here. Okay, well, yeah, then you have to start working on other stuff. So you're still on the star. Do you have any questions on the star, Charlie, that I need to go over, or did I just like buzz through it so fast that you couldn't keep up with it? I did move it pretty quick. Okay, cool. Okay, well, we'll be going on that, and one of the things that I'll be doing next week is when you look at my schedule. Where is it? On my appointment schedule, I'll actually try to set some of these times out so that we can just be on and practice together. I want to get the skill down. I know how to do it, but I don't know how to teach people to be on at the same time. So I'll be looking forward to working with some of you so that we can create some applications for that. Okay, well then there we go. That's what we're looking at for today.